abrupt into the music. Welcome to Chadev, everybody. Welcome to Chadev. Those in our live audience and those in our live stream. So as you can see, the pizza hasn't arrived. We're definitely on the outside of the bell curve in terms of average delivery times. So guess we'll eat afterwards. So next week, come check out the talk next week. Brian, are you here? Yeah? Gonna give us a talk about Kotlin, right? All right, so come check that out. Brian, why don't you tell people, does anybody not know what Kotlin is? It's here to save you from Java, right? That's the tagline. Yeah, all that pain and suffering. So check that out. All right, so no more faffing about. Today, we got a great talk coming to you from Mr. Ben here from Papercut Interactive, and he's a front-end and back-end developer. You guys give him a warm welcome.
Just waiting for it all to come up. Yeah, thank you for the introduction. Yeah, the title today is The Importance of UX to Backend Developers. And the outline today is I'm going to cover first why is user experience important, and then looking at how to create a good user experience by looking at UX throughout the development process. Some of the areas that I'm looking at is marketing and market analysis and planning, user interface development, when good looking is not equal to good UX, putting wind in the sails, which will make sense when I get there, the admin control panel, and then beta testing. The first section, why is user experience important? And the reason is that UX is a window into the overall quality of the work. This can be a good thing or it can be a bad thing. If a user has a bad experience or there's a poorly thought out user interface, then it raises suspicions about the rest of the code that they can't see. It's like having a lemon for a car. You may have a few parts that are broken that are extremely frustrating, and the user of that vehicle ends up making a decision about the whole. Even though that vehicle may be well engineered and that the rest of the car has a large majority of good working parts, those single areas, people tend to look on those trouble spots and make judgments over the whole. Or in contrast, you may have a great experience and see a well thought out user interface, and that creates a positive impression over the rest of the code. Now, some important questions as you're developing an app is, does the app or website do what is expected? Is it easy to use, and is it well thought out? Now, one classic web development book is called Don't Make Me Think by Steve Krug. This particular book has got a few helpful insights with web design and web development. You might expect your users to read in a linear fashion, from top to bottom, from left to right. But in reality, that's not how people use a web page. They scan, they look at headings, they look at graphics, they look at images, and they quickly assess that page. Does this page have what I'm looking for, or should I go to a number of other websites that are providing the same sorts of information, which may help me get there more quickly? So the design of the page is very crucial in helping a user find what they're looking for and get there effectively. And also, it's important to realize that there's a purpose why users are at a website. You want the design and layout to assist the user rather than hinder them. So again, you're using the design of the website to help them navigate through the website to find what they're looking for. Now, another book that I found helpful is Thinking Fast and Slow by Daniel Kahneman. This book is actually more about psychology, but it has a lot of helpful things once we start applying it to web design, web development. Now, he breaks things into two systems. System one creates an interpretation of your world at any given instant. It's fast, it's effortless, and it's automatic. You don't have to it doesn't feel like you're thinking through things. And the incredible part about this is it can do complex tasks like driving a car. When you're driving and it feels like you're just on autopilot, you're doing that using System 1. You're not really exerting any effort. It's automatic. There's no effort required. System 2, on the other hand, takes focus, it takes attention, and mental labor. It's used for problem solving and takes longer to think things through. Now, a main characteristic of System 2 is not to use more energy than necessary to accomplish a task, and whenever possible, defers to system one. So as you're processing something, you're actually going to end up oftentimes having the two systems working together. That system one is maybe looking, I'll continue a little bit further to talk about how the two interrelate a little bit. One of the questions as you are designing, though, is does your user need to concentrate to figure out how to use your website or app? Does it require focus? Are they getting stuck on different elements of the design? Or is it something that's easy, something that's intuitive, it comes naturally? They don't really feel like they're thinking about where they're going to. So we have to realize that a user's evaluation is subjective. Now, the work that you're doing development-wise, your code, is objective. But at the same time, it ends up being the user's experience that makes the decision, makes an evaluation of your work because of the way that they're looking at your project, that it's something that is a subjective decision. Now, as someone is to pull these things together, someone is looking at, let's say, an app, they're pulling together past experiences that they've had on other websites, other apps, which is, again, is using system one to do that. The other part of it is they're focused on a particular task. They're looking to find something, to get information, or do something on your particular app. And that takes system two as they're using focus, but it's not a whole lot of focus. They're just looking for something through that interface. And in that mode, if it's well designed and well thought out, it's something that comes very naturally. They're focused on what they're looking for. They move very seamlessly through the website or app without any difficulty, and that's what you're looking for. However, there can be times when it's not designed very well. You may be missing some important functionality, and the user has to get stuck trying to figure out how to use the navigation. They're stuck trying to figure out where they're at. So they have to start putting a heavier load on system two that starts creating friction. It starts causing frustration for the user. And that's something that we want to try and avoid. So as someone is looking at your app or they're looking at your website, you want to make sure that it's well designed and well structured with the proper functionality so that their usage of the app itself is actually very seamless, very intuitive. It feels very natural to use your website or app. And then that allows the user to use their system two just to focus on what they're looking for. And it ends up creating a good user experience. And if they have a great user experience, that means they have a positive impression of the rest of your code, which includes all the code that you've put into the development. Now, many things come together to create that enjoyable experience. So we're going to take a look at UX throughout the development process. The first step is market analysis. You want to try and figure out who is it that's going to be using this particular app or website. You can try to leverage whatever existing resources you have, if there's a marketing department you have, or if there's somebody on the team that is able to help give you the information that you're looking for. And then just take a look at analytic data. What are the entry pages? How long are people on the site? Which pages are they going to the most? What are the exit pages? There's a lot of things you can glean from analytics to get a better understanding of the particular users that you're looking for. What are the target devices? Is it something that you're expecting them to be using mobile devices all the time, or is it somebody who's going to be sitting at a desk primarily? So you're looking at something that you're focusing more on the desktop view of the particular website that you're developing. You also want to we're going to take a look at the UX in the planning phase. Now, planning is a dialogue that helps determine the goals of the project and how to reach them. Through this process, you're working with whoever it might be, whether it's a client or someone in your company that wants you to build this particular app or website, determine what are the goals that you're trying to reach. And then you're through the process trying to figure out what steps can we take to reach them. So you want to make sure that you know what's included in the user interface, how should it be structured and organized, what functionality can you add to this particular app to give a better user experience. You want to start thinking at the planning phase how you're starting thinking about the user experience at the planning phase, because if you start doing it later on, it's not going to end up giving the experience that you're looking for. Now, one example is the Greater Chattanooga Economic Partnership website. As we did the research and we're doing the planning, we determined that we wanted to have this designed for companies looking to expand. This particular website was designed so that business owners and executives can find potential real estate, dig into regional data, and then compile a well-designed report with key takeaways from the research. And then from this, it's a full-service destination that makes it easy for businesses to get everything they need to make the case for the Chattanooga area as the perfect location. So they're able to navigate throughout the website. There's a button that says Add to My Report. They can then generate a report of all the things they found helpful throughout the website, puts it already into a PDF. So all that work that would have otherwise taken that executive a lot of time to filter through all those pieces of data is done automatically for them through an easy-to-use interface. And by looking at the market analysis of who's using this, what are the goals that we're trying to achieve, seeing that this here is something we need to put at the top of our list. So by doing that research, by doing the planning, you know how to sort out what are the priority pieces of this project and what things are a little bit further down the list. So that's going to help you know how you're going to be spending your time development, how much time do you be spending development-wise on different aspects and how big they're going to end up being. Another example, should I switch?
Yeah, we'll turn it off.
Okay. Should I start talking on this one now? Yeah. All right. All right. Try to get.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, it's okay. Another example is the Road Tech Dealer Portal. This is something that we're working with Road Tech on to add in some additional functionality to the website. So Jenny on our team made some initial sketches after talking to the client. Then we made some more changes after that discussion to make it easier to code, easier to maintain. After some more dialogue based on their needs and what we could offer them, more functionality was added. In planning, we worked out all the elements that would be on the page and their priority. And then in design, we worked out the interface for easy navigation through the available resources. So this particular portal ends up providing a large library of resources that can be filtered through using a variety of different search options. So they could end up searching by the product line, by the model name, by the file type, or do a direct search. And this contained different things that are as simple as a PDF or a presentation, or more complex things like a video or a photo gallery that they could go through to get whatever photos that they wanted to get for any marketing purposes that they had. And as we presented this to the client, the first response that they had was, I like how intuitive it is. And that's what we're looking for, something that is immediately intuitive to the user. That means that this design is what we're looking for as a user interface, is that when someone starts using this, they don't have to start using System 2 to figure out how to use it. It's something that flows very naturally with their experience in interacting with it. Now the next step is user interface development. Good design should visually communicate the content of the page and highlight the interactive elements. In this process, we want to make sure that we prioritize the user interface content. When designing something on mobile, it forces you to put one thing on top of another, and that's a helpful thing if you're doing mobile-first design, is that you are forced to put that priority on the content and you know why you're putting it in a particular place. So prioritizing content is going to be important, and then if we remember the Don't Make Me Think that I referenced at the beginning, people are going to scan the page. So you want to try to, in this design, make sure that you're putting to use a good structure with a hierarchy of headings, that you have larger headings and you're moving down in smaller sizes, different colors to highlight the different sizes to make them stand out. You're using graphics that help communicate this is the article that you're looking for. You're using any graphics that you can to help immediately help the user discern what it is they're looking at and which elements that they want to click on. So you want to make sure that any interactive elements are very clear that they're interactive, any buttons are clear that they're buttons, and by doing this, it makes it a lot easier experience for the user. Now an example of this is the GSET My Report functionality. With this is the My Report functionality I mentioned earlier, and the user, as you take a look at the image on the screen, you see at the top left, it's a big orange button that says Generate My Report. So after they've compiled their pieces of the report, they can just hit that button and it gives them the report that they're looking for. The second thing you see on the page is the big blocks. As someone adds pages to this particular report, they're going to see those blocks being added to the report. At the bottom corner of that, you'll see a little tiny X they can use to remove it, or on the right side, you see the blue button for Remove All. that you can look at the page and discern at a glance what the major pieces of it are and how to interact with that particular page. Now, there are some times when good looking is not equal to good UX. You may end up seeing a website or a web page or an app that ends up being very good looking visually. It may be something that's edgy and looks really good, but at the same time, it may not help you get what you're looking for. You may not be able to find exactly what you're looking for on the page. And at those times, you want to try and figure out what's causing the problem. Is it a failure of navigation? Is it a failure of search? Is there too much information? And start asking yourself, asking yourself questions about what's wrong with this page, of why I can't get what I'm looking for, why is it not easily making sense on what to do. So with this, just ask yourself, what are those pieces that are missing? And more importantly, for developers, what functionality is missing? That's what we're looking for, is that we have the functionality, or we can create the functionality that's needed to give the user the experience that they're looking for. So one example is the Southern Champion Tray product search. What we did on their site, they have a large number of products to search through. We ended up creating a step-by-step conditional logic search form. They make one check and it provides a drop-down of more options that are available. And then once they make another selection, it gives another drop-down with more details of different options they can select from there. They can choose a size, or if they have the exact product number, they can enter the product number in as well. So they're given a myriad of different options available to filter the results according to the level of detail of information that they have and what they know they're looking for. Another solution is offering multiple ways to find products. In the Dalton Bearing website, they had over 100,000 products in their store. So we wanted to try and find a way that they could make it as easy as possible for people to find products within the store. So the best way to do this is to offer multiple different ways for people to get there. So people will have a different starting point according to the information they have. It may be a brand, it may be a category, or they may have the exact product number that they're looking for. Each of those methods can be used on their website to find the product that they're looking for. Also, you want to ask what feature of a product stands out most. That's going to be their starting point. For a user, they may not have a whole lot of information starting with, so they're going by whatever is just the first thing that comes to their mind of, this is what stands out about the product I'm looking for. They don't know yet what that is precisely until they actually get to that page they're looking for. So by offering multiple different paths, it makes it a lot easier for the user to find what they're looking for. The RoadTech dealer portal was also another example of using multiple different ways to find items. That is a library of resources where we're offering multiple different paths, and by doing that, creates that intuitive experience that we want to provide to the users. Another possible thing is multiple views. You may have on a product page something where it's just a simple graphic. You've got an image of the product, and you may have a description of the product next to it. Or on the same store, you may have a highly customizable product that has a myriad of different options, and you'll end up providing different tools, helpful resources, and dynamic options to help the user navigate through that page. So it's actually one page that you have that you're developing, but according to the information for that particular product, delivers a different view or a different presentation of that same thing. So it's adding that functionality that if people are having issues trying to figure out how to customize the right thing, or they're having lots of returns because people keep ordering the wrong thing, then you can add in that functionality to the page to help the user have a better experience. And if they're able to get exactly what they're looking for and they feel comfortable with that, that's going to help them have a good experience. And again, by having a good experience, that means they're having a favorable impression of everything, which is including the code that you're developing. Now, the next major section is putting wind in the sails. Now, code is like the wind. It's something that you can't see directly. You can't immediately see what it is, but at the same time, you see the way it makes an impact. And on a website, your code is not something that the user is actually going to see, but it's what moves the entire website. It's like a sailboat that once you have your code in place, that's what moves the boat. And we're looking at finding different ways of adding functionality to a website that pushes that sailboat forward. So there's different ways that you can look at. I've already given some examples already about things that are kind of more on the front end of functionality that would require more JavaScript, things in the front end. But at this point, I'm looking at more back-end scripts of things that we can develop to provide better functionality for the front end so that people have that better user experience. And again, people may not immediately discern that it's your code that's doing this, but they're getting that experience that gives them a good overall impression of the website or app that you're developing. So the first thing is intelligent responses. A good example of this is going to be the Google search bar. So you want to look at having personalized responses based on user input or context. With that single search bar, you put a search in there, and Google determines whether you're looking for a video, if you're looking at a definition, if you're looking for a local restaurant, or if it's the weather, some calculation. It automatically determines and categorizes things using their semantic search capability to figure out what sort of thing to give. Now, we're not going to end up developing the same algorithm that Google does, but the concept still applies. There's different ways that we can use data within our systems and algorithms to be able to find ways to give smarter responses to the user that's going to be more tailored to the user, and from that, giving them a better experience. Another thing, which is just something common, but just an autocomplete. They may type in a few letters or just one word into something, but with a single click, they can complete that search. And what this does is, think about System 2 again. The System 2 is not wanting to do more work than necessary, so as soon as they see a solution, they intuitively can quickly make a click on that next step, and it completes the search. It also allows them to see long-term keywords, which may end up being more descriptive and helping them find more precisely what they're looking for. So the autocomplete functionality is something that, if you're able to add it into your projects, it's a simple thing to add in, but ends up adding much more. It's a small thing that makes a big difference in the user's experience. Another option is using layered navigation. Layered navigation is available by user input. So if we take a look at Amazon store, if you type in LCD and hit enter, it'll give you in an auto search, are you looking for LCD and electronics? And you click on that, you might see a page like this. On the left-hand side, you're immediately seeing some additional ways to filter the results. You can filter by the size of the display, you can filter by the cost of the display, what type of display are you looking for. So from that category alone, you're getting all these different search criteria that's available to filter through the results. But if you're looking for something else, let's say you're looking for a PC, you're going to get search results on the side, layered navigation options for more filter options. So you may not even have a store that you're adding this functionality to. It may be something else. You have a database full of different things that someone's searching through. You can apply this capability of having multiple different search filters according to a category or according to different data that you have in your system, that you can still apply this layered navigation to your projects. Another area is user engagement. This is something that if someone bounces from your website really quickly, you know that you have very poor user engagement. So you're seeing that there's some problems with your website. It could be some of the things we've already discussed earlier, that it's not easy for them to find what they're looking for. But if you know that you've really covered that functionality, that there's some things that you can add to your website to increase user engagement. And this is going to depend a lot on your projects. They may vary depending on what degree you can actually build this in. But using the example of Facebook, they have a news feed. And with the news feed, they've got an algorithm that goes on in the background that allows the user to see the most popular posts among their friends. They know that by common interactions between friends, which ones you'd be most interested in seeing. And it can even be a bounce between not you, your friend directly, but a friend of a friend, which is really popular. And through those things, you end up having a news feed that people end up spending hours a day going through, interacting with their friends. So by creating different things within your code, it's going to end up offering a better user engagement. And again, it's not going to be the same as Facebook's implementation, but it's still a good concept of how can we offer functionality in the projects that we're developing to get people more engaged in what you're developing. Another thing is the suggested friends. Again, they're looking at friends of friends and how many common connections do you have to make suggestions of who you might have, who might be an actual friend. And they're using that because by the more people in your network, the more likely you're going to be more engaged in Facebook. Another simple thing that you can add to your website is convenience features. These are something that may seem very subtle, may seem very simple, but they go a long way in helping the user have a better experience. And again, this is kind of along the same line where if we're thinking of System 1 and System 2, it's something that System 2 never has to kick in because you've already done all the work with the code. And again, that adds to the user experience, which gives them a better experience overall, and they give a better impression of your work in the project. So if we're looking at a contact form, if you're using Ajax to submit the form, and you have a little checkbox at the bottom, add me to your mailing list, you can then use Ajax to make a second submission at the same time to MailChimp and subscribe them to your mailing list. You may also offer different multiple ways to deliver a report. So if we go back to the GSEP report example given earlier, once the report's generated, they have the option of either downloading it, they can print it, or they can have it emailed to wherever they wanted to. So offering different convenience things to the user of how did you actually want to get this report. Another option is auto login after account creation. If they're going through a registration process, you want to make that as seamless as possible. If you've already registered for the account, there's not really a reason for them to go in and automatically go in and type their username and password again. It's something that you know that from the data that you already have, you can easily log them in. So having the auto login is something that makes it a lot easier. Or if they're in a checkout process, by adding something where if they filled out the billing information, if there's that shipping is same as billing checkbox, again, it's that simple thing that people are getting used to, but by having that there, it makes the whole process much more seamless, a lot easier for the user. Another option is if someone is filling out a form and there's some error on that form. It could be a login form where there's an incorrect password. You can keep, by the form posting it to itself, you can keep the email address still in there for the user. Or if they have a longer form, you don't want to have them go through and refill out the entire form because there's an error on one particular field. You just post that form back to itself and you have all that post data to repopulate the form. So that process can be very easy to do just by taking a few extra moments in your code. The next major area is the admin control panel. We want to make sure that it's easy for admins to access the admin and know exactly where to make the changes they need to. I've been talking mostly about the front end of the website where people are seeing what's going on publicly, but we can't forget the admins who are going to end up maintaining this particular product. So as people are going in to make edits, the admins on this particular, if it's an app or if it's a website, their expertise is in something different. They're not going to really want to spend a whole lot of time learning a new application, figuring out the ins and outs of every little corner of it. They're not really developers. They don't really need to be developers. Our goal is to try and make that easy for them to make those changes that they need to. So let's think about System 2 again. If they've got a goal of updating the website, how much of the process is going to be intuitive and how much do they have to stop and figure out what's going on? And if they have to start kicking into System 2, putting more labor on that process of how do I go in and make this change, they start having friction with the website, they start getting frustrated with it, and it starts looking poorly on you on what you've developed and had offered to them as a means of updating the website. So the first step is you just want to make the right choice on the right CMS. Usability is something that should impact your choice of the CMS. Again, the admin should be very easily able to go in and make changes to the website or to the app content. And you want to do some research to find the one that best fits you and the admins who are going to use it. I'm not going to make a recommendation because I know that one size does not fit every project. The other thing to think about is structure and organization. How can the data in the fields be structured to make it easier for the users? Now, with a content management system, you've got, on any website or app, you've got a database that holds all the data. And what a CMS is, it's providing an easy interface for admin users to be able to put data into that database. And then at the other side of that, from that database, you're pulling data out into templates. So at Papercut, we've ended up using Expression Engine because it makes it very easy for us to quickly compose that page of here's all the fields, here's the formats it should go in, and we can define very easily, here's how it goes into the database, and then we can easily pull that data out in the right format on the templates because we're able to get the two pieces to work together. So the interface for the user ends up being very easy for them to use, and then once that data is in the database, it's formatted in the right tables, the right fields, we're able to label them in ways that are just we're able in the setup to quickly define what all the labels are for those fields. And then once we're setting up the templates, it's easy to do. And you can do this with a lot of different CMS programs. Again, find the one that makes it easiest for you and for your purposes. So one example of this is I'm looking at a graph here that's from the GSEP website. Again, we're looking at reports. This particular one's unemployment rates. And this particular graph that's on the front end of their website, there's a table in the back end in the admin. So at GSEP, they fill in this table of data, and they don't realize that once this table of data goes in the database, that this is being structured into an array. So they don't have to think in developer terms. They just know, oh, it's a table. I fill in this stuff here. And then this ends up being outputted into an array, which populates the graph. So we've got a tool on the front end of the website that ends up creating this graph. It ends up looking like a nice graph, and they're able to have a tool that's very intuitive and easy for them to use and very powerful because it puts everything into the right format that we're looking for. Another area that we want to look at in your decision for the right CMS is the page editor. With Expression Engine, we're able to very easily organize all the fields on the page so that those fields end up appearing in the same order that they see them on the front end of the website. I know there's some other ones where you can actually edit directly on the page itself and you can see some changes there. That's also a helpful tool to have. But again, it's whatever CMS works best for you. So in this page editor, there's areas that those fields end up connecting to places in the template where you've got a WYSIWYG editor here and it comes into this area here, and we're entering in a different data type here, which may end up being a video or may end up being another type of data that ends up being outputted on the template here. So just being able to find different tools that you know that you want to look at the end product that you're presenting and just making sure that wherever you end up with your CMS, that page is very easy for the user and ends up also being easy for you as a developer to set up initially and able to be able to create the templates and put the data in the right format that you're looking for. Now the last step of the process is beta testing. This is that part of the project when you think that you're done and then everyone tells you how you've got all these flaws into it and here's all the things you need to fix. You may not like the critique that people give, but that's something that you need the feedback from other people. And then another aspect that's going to be important in the process is to get non-developers to test your app. And the reason is you want to have people that are like your target audience testing it because they're going to see things that you haven't seen. They're going to have fresh eyes to see different things that are not working the way you'd expect them to. So they're going to give an input that is very valuable and at the end, once you've finished that process, you've gone through the beta testing, and the beta testers are like, yeah, this is great. If they're getting a positive experience, that's something that at the end, you can be excited about what you've finished up, what you've created. So when that goes out the door, you can be confident that this is going to be a great product and that you're going to meet the goals that you're looking for on the project. So in summary, user experience is in a window into the overall quality of the work. It's what people see and what they experience. We may not like that this is the way it is, but we can learn from this and deliver a good user experience for the user. Something that by following the steps in this process, you can turn it into your favor by recognizing that it is a window into the overall quality of the work. This is something that you do have in your power to change their opinions by what you deliver. And that's done by delivering a great UX, by focusing on good UX throughout the process. Now we had looked at the marketing analysis and planning, so by applying good planning, good marketing research, looking through the user interface development to create a good design, a good layout, that you've thought through the pieces, you know that it's a good interface for users, that we've gone through and seen that, okay, once you find trouble spots in the design, you've gone back and reevaluated them, you're adding the functionality that's needed for a good user experience. you're going through and looking at it and evaluating that any of the functionality for the back end that you're looking at what ways can we add functionality to provide a better product. You're also looking at the admin control panel to make sure that that's easy for users, and that you're going through a proper beta testing process. You're looking at non-developers also testing it, that when you pull all these things together, again, you can be very excited about what you've created. They have a great experience with the app, and you can have a great response from whether it's the clients that you're developing this for or for the company they work for. You know that they're going to be very happy with the work that you've done. So thank you. Does anyone have a question? Yeah. Go ahead. So in the planning phase within a project, how long should that take? That's something that's kind of hard. I think a lot of it's going to depend on the project itself. There's certain projects that just have a lot of moving pieces, a lot of unknowns. You may have to do some prototyping to find out, okay, does this work? Let's test some theories. So on more complex projects, it may end up taking more time because it's not just figuring out a plan. There may be something much more complex you have to figure out. So it could take much longer on those projects. I don't really have an exact number for the amount of time. I think probably rather than giving a number for the amount of time, it's more of that when you get to a place where you feel good, that we know what we're doing, we know how to get there. Because as you have that plan, I mean, just on that outline, you're going to know that you've covered everything. So it's more of just, it's not a quantifiable number that, okay, if we've hit our 10%, let's start developing, even though you've got a few loose ends to figure out. I think that if you don't cover things properly in planning, it's going to take a whole lot longer later on. So you want to make sure you've covered everything and you feel comfortable where you're at with planning.
Thanks, Ben. Really appreciate that. Y'all grab some pizza. Grab some pizza. Yeah, it's here finally. So do that, and then